So I'll jump in the first question, and then Chadwick can jump in. Like I said, like I haven't seen you in the fields for the longest, man. I have kind of bumped into you, and I see the passion that you have for your players, for all the players, but I never got to really have an opportunity to have a coffee or a beer with you and talk about you. Where are you from? Like how you end up here
Yeah.
on these amazing frozen land of the north?
It's a very cool story. You know, I was born and raised in Lebanon. I pretty much until the age of 14 years old. I grew up. You know, Lebanon obviously, you know, had a lot of war crimes, war issues. You know, there's always things going on. You know, it wasn't the safest place to be. You know, we grew up bored. You know, we didn't have electronics. We didn't have these things that kids have these days. All we did was play football every day. You know, I remember, you know, us kids being 10, 11, 12 years old, you know, some of the kids that I coach now playing football on concrete, and, you know, the street over was the no man land where if the ball goes there, the sniper played with it and snipered at it, you know, and it was crazy. Like that's the kind of places where we lived. And that's where I was, you know, growing up playing the game. And, you know, when you mentioned futsal, you know, I think back then we didn't even know what futsal is, but we played futsal every day because there was no grass. You know, there was no such thing as grass where people played on grass. We either played on sand or, you know, and if we played on sand, that's luxury and red sand. And if we played every day, we basically played every day for the whole day. Literally when we woke up, went down to the street, and that's where we lived. We lived on the street as kids. And we played on concrete, and we played with all kinds of ages, you know, like we were 10, 11, 12 years old playing with adults, you know, that would come in, and your favorite person is the person with the ball. If you had a ball, boom, you're it, you know, you're the most popular person on the field, right? And we didn't have nets. We drew the nets on the concrete wall, you know, and that's how we played. So we were like, you know, trying to play as quick as possible, not because people were telling us, because these older kids would get mad and they would come hit you, you know, these older players, right? So we learned to play quick. And this is how, you know, I was introduced to football, and it was just the only sport that we could play, because all you need is like very similar to Brazil. All you need is a ball. You know, you really need shoes. And most of the kids that we played with barely even had shoes. I remember, you know, me as a young kid, I would sit by my mom and just wait for her to finish. You know, she used to saw dresses and stuff, you know, to finish the dress so she can go buy me shoes. You know, I mean, that was my ultimate, you know, reward, you know, one shoe every 3 years, you know, that's it. That's how we grew up. We grew up poor, and that was it. And it took, you know, war to find out. My parents were like, okay, your brother is in Canada. You're going the wrong way. I was on the street, and, you know, when you're a kid on the street and you're playing football and you're good and you're smart, and, you know, they try to use you, right, for other purposes, you know, so they started to see that I was leaning towards, you know, the gangs, and they pull kids, right? I mean, they're brainwashing. That's what happens, right? So my parents are like, hey, you got to get out. So they talked to my brother, and he got my paperwork done, and I went up to a place further north than here. You know, I went up to Fort McMurray.
Wow.
1993. Yeah, that's where I started in Canada, and it was the coldest place in the world to me. Obviously, I've never seen anything like this that we've seen today, you know. And there was no football. There's absolutely no football. I played a very, very high level, like for the national team at a young age, you know, was geared up towards, you know, the ranks. And being 14 here, it was like playing with adults. It was like playing with U9s. It's too easy. There was nobody that could play. And I kind of deviated from that, went into school, started picking up other sports, and picked up the love for it again, you know, when I moved back to Edmonton. But that was my story in getting to Canada.
I find it fascinating how similar it is, because, you know, we did not, like, the way we did nets was like flip-flops, right? and if somebody shoot the ball was a little bit higher, you got into a fight. There was goal, there was no goal, and there was out, right? You play barefoot on the asphalt, and you learn how to touch the ball, right? You know, like what kind of part of your foot touch the ball does what, and then you talk about sand. We play in gravel. I don't know if Thiago had the opportunity to play in gravel. Actually, it's kind of interesting that one of the top clubs in Brazil, they have a gravel field for younger guys, for they learn how to play in that diversity, right? So it's like those little things that we come to this little North America bubble, and we take it for granted, right? So the game is more complex than that.
100%, you know, and then here where if the pitch is not perfect and there's grass on 90% of the field and there's no grass on 10% of the field, the pitch is bad. I'm not playing here. Most kids, this is actually great for you, you know?
Yeah.
You play on this pitch, and now the ball bounces. Now you got to react quickly to take a touch, maybe lift your foot up a little bit more. But that's everything it has to be perfect here, you know? And we make it perfect. You know, instead of playing on grass, we go rent turf to play on because we want a perfect pitch. Mm-hmm. Playing on a perfect pitch doesn't make you a great player.
Yeah.
Playing in adversity, playing in weather, different climates, you know, all that's what makes good players, right? And I think that's where players that come from different parts of the world that's where they play, you know, on all kinds of different surfaces, right?
Yeah. And I think I'm a big believer as well. Like one of the things that we're missing in Canada, or at least in Alberta, right? It's the opportunity for players to be playing different platforms, right? Like we grew up playing barefoot on the streets, asphalt, dirt, sand, as you mentioned, you know, as well. It's just that builds you to be a better player, to understand, okay, as you said, like there's older kids. If I hold the ball for too long, what's gonna happen, right? So that like when you play in dirt, the ball is bouncing. Like what are you gonna do? You can't just, you have to quickly control the ball, bring it down, and play. So that kind of builds your IQ for soccer, your technique. So I think that's where we're missing. We're a bit spoiled here.
100%. And it's funny that you say that. I was talking to a person about futsal. I was thinking about getting girls involved, and he's mentioning, but the pitch is small. Man, it's still a pitch. Exactly. They're still playing. They're still touching the ball. The pitch is small. That's good. They play faster now.
Yeah.
So look at the advantages that it brings to your team, to your players, right?
Yeah.
But you always see that people are, and again, when you come, like the other saying, when you come playing with barefoot on asphalt, you don't see anything negative after that.
No.
Everything is positive.
Yeah.
And that's, you start to look at life in a positive way.
Yeah.
And, people are like, man, you take the worst situation and you bring the positive out of it. But when you see me on the field, you look like I'm a very, very negative coach.
Well, but see, and like you mentioned, like the asphalt, like how many times, like when you have to learn, like there's sometimes the option is going to make the ball go higher above the person, right? How you do that when you're barefoot in an asphalt in a hot weather in Rio, right? Because if you miscalculate that, guess what? The top of your toe is gonna be gone, right? And you're gonna be celebrating. And you don't stop playing it until you get home. There's all the infection, all the dirt and everything, and you get home and you take a shower and you figure out, right? But like you said, but that's the adversity. That's why a lot of times we're put in position we have to figure out. We have to figure it out, and there's no other way here. But everything has to be perfect, right? The pitch, the ball, the shoes, everything. At the moment you take a little bit out, it creates an issue.